Hello, everyone, and welcome to Penn State Sports Night. This is your Dear Old State update. I'm Jasenia Marrero alongside Kylie Smith, and we've got the latest on everything happening across Penn State sports.
From hockey in Beaver Stadium to the domination of the wrestling team, it has been a busy past few weeks here for Penn State athletics. There is a lot to catch up on, and our beat reporters have the rundown. The Dear Old State update starts now.
History was made right here in State College this weekend as Beaver Stadium hosted two outdoor hockey games, one for Penn State's women's hockey and the other one for the men's team. In the men's team, the two-game series, number 2 Michigan State defeated number 5 Penn State in an overtime win in front of over 70,000 plus fans. Our own Cassie Vaselis and Annika Wagner were out in the freezing temperatures on Saturday, and now they're here in the studio to break down everything that happened on the ice.
Thanks, Jasenia. A top 5 matchup was played in Hockey Valley this past weekend with the Michigan State Spartans coming to town. The Nittany Lions played on Friday in Pagula, where they took a 6-3 loss, and then they got to play outdoors on Saturday in Beaver Stadium, falling 5-4 in overtime. We were at both of the games this weekend. Let's take a look.
Number 5 Penn State welcomed number 2 Michigan State into Hockey Valley this weekend. The Spartans started off hot on Friday with a 3-0 lead at the end of the first. Physicality played a huge role in the game, with both teams collecting game misconduct penalties. The Nittany Lions started to climb back with goals by Jackson Smith, Reese Lubbock, and Matt DeMarsico, but it wasn't enough as Michigan State took a 6-3 win.
Obviously, you take away not a great start for us. However, you take away the first period, and there's a lot of things that we're very happy with. Obviously, the fight to come back.
After a loss on Friday, the Nittany Lions had a chance to bounce back in Beaver Stadium with 74,000 fans in attendance, but that opportunity fell short in overtime.
Really sorry that we didn't win, but I tell you what, none of us, the players especially, will ever forget this experience. So it was incredible, and Penn State is incredible.
The second game of the series remained close as the team was repping new jerseys, playing in a new rink, and had an electric crowd on their side. The line of Aiden Fink, Dane Dowiak, and Gavin McKenna contributed 8 points.
I think our line's just been clicking. We've started to find our groove, and we hope to keep it going.
The game ended in heartbreaking fashion as the fired-up crowd was silenced by Charlie Stramo scoring the overtime goal. The Blue and White are now 18-8 and have a bye week before heading to Ann Arbor to face the Michigan Wolverines. Reporting for Penn State Sports Night, I'm Cassie Vaselis.
I'm Cassie Vaselis, joined alongside Annika Wagner, and we are your Penn State men's hockey beat reporters. And Annika, we were there in Beaver Stadium on Saturday, and it was really cool.
It was definitely cool in more ways than one. I am just feeling back in my appendages, but it was an incredible atmosphere, an incredible game. Even if it didn't go the way of Penn State, it was still an awesome experience. And it was an incredible crowd showing by the Hockey Valley fans. Almost 75,000 people in attendance. It was just an incredible experience, and I really hope that Penn State does this again and brings more sports to Beaver Stadium, especially if the fans have shown that they're willing to back it.
Yeah, it was definitely an electric crowd, and we hope to see more in Beaver Stadium, but we did see the results this weekend, maybe not what Penn State had wanted. What kind of went wrong for the team?
So penalties were a huge part of this weekend, especially on Friday. Both teams racked up 89 minutes of penalties on Friday. And that's just something that we've been talking about it the entire year with Penn State. They have been struggling staying out of the box, and they can't give teams like Michigan State more opportunities to get on the advantage and get these scoring opportunities. Even if they have a fantastic penalty kill, they can't keep getting in the box. They can't keep giving up, especially game misconducts. Gavin going out in on Friday's match with a game misconduct. And had he stayed in, that probably would have been maybe a different outcome of that game. They could have probably maybe came back and maybe tied it up. However, and they also need to worry about that because once we get further into the season, looking ahead at making a postseason run, if they rack up too many game misconducts, they could get reviewed and have a suspension overall. It happened to Reese Laubach last season. Another aspect of the penalties, on the flip side, Penn State went 2 for 8 on scoring on the penalties, on their man advantage. They need to take opportunities where they can get them. If they're going to play a physical game, they need to capitalize off of their opportunities, especially against a team like Michigan State that's not going to let them get in the ozone much or crash the crease much. They need to capitalize where they can get their opportunities from. And then finally, Penn State needs to start the game hot. We saw it this weekend. They did not. They fell into a deficit in both games. They're 8-7 when they start off trailing. That needs to change for them. Something needs to click there. They need to start the game hot and continue the rest of the game that way.
Yeah, you mentioned them needing to start off hot, and they did go down 3-0 on Friday. They were trying to climb back, but you can't always rely on the comeback. Yes, they've done it a few times, but especially when you're playing a team like Michigan State, it's not reality sometimes to be able to get back in there. And also, Guy Godowski talked about they were playing a little too cute again. Instead of just shooting, they were passing, looking for those opportunities, where sometimes the best opportunity is to just rush the goalie and shoot. Injuries are another thing that might be stopping them a little bit right now. Charlie Serrato is out for the unforeseeable future. And then you have Alex Serrano, who got injured on Friday. He was in crutches on Saturday, did not play. So that's also something you need to watch out for, especially with that roster cap. But we did see the results, not so good, but there were still some positives that came out of this weekend. What were those?
Absolutely. And we have seen as of recent, with all the injuries that have occurred, the Gavin McKenna, Aiden Fink, and Dane Dowiak line has really stepped up, especially with the behind-the-back boys falling a little. We see it here. Aiden Fink gets the pass from McKenna. He scores the game-tying goal in Beaver, 3-3 at the time. They have really stepped up. And the team chemistry overall has really been rallying together to help them in comeback wins. They have been getting a lot of comeback wins as of late, not this weekend, but they have really started to find a groove more and find that synergy that Gads has been talking about all year long. Another bright spot has been the goaltending. Both Fleming and Riedler still splitting the series. Gads thinks he's going to stick with that. We might see a change in the next couple of weeks. But they have both been fantastic goaltenders this year, both with a over 900 save percentage. And that is something that has been huge for Penn State, especially when they are trailing, to get the comeback wins with a team that rallies behind these goaltenders.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned Gavin McKenna. He is on fire right now, especially in that line that he has. The Penn State is 9th in the NCAA scoring offense as well, due to McKenna, Aiden Fink, Dane Dowiak, Matt DeMarco. You can go on. The goaltending, like you said, has been so strong. Guy Godowski said in media, if it's not broken, why fix it? So they are continuing to stick with that goalie rotation. Riedler's 9th in the NCAA goalie win percentage. Fleming is a Hobie Baker nominee. And their penalty kill, despite having a lot of penalties this weekend, has still been pretty good. They're 7th in the NCAA. So they have that to at least back them up sometimes with their goaltending. Now, they do have a bye week this week. Then they are traveling to Michigan, where they're going to face the Wolverines. So when we're looking into the future, Annika, how can Penn State come out with a win against this hot team?
Well, Michigan was a huge test for them in the beginning of the season. They fell 7-1 in their first game against them back in November. It is going to be a really difficult test for them, especially if they can't continue, if they keep continuing to have these issues staying in the box. They need to get the penalties under control. They keep towing the line of physicality and emotion, and they really need to get that in check so they can just play Penn State hockey. Get back to playing Penn State hockey. They need to stay out of the box, especially with a team that is so good at scoring, especially TJ Hughes. he's an elite scorer for the Wolverines. And Michigan is the number one scoring offense in the country. They need to keep the penalties in check, not letting the team get more opportunities than they can. And then they need to start out the game scoring. They need to start hot. They are 10-1 when they score first. That is huge. They need to continue that momentum, especially against a team that's not going to give them a lot of opportunities. They need to crash the crease, take away the goalie's sight. They said that after the games Friday and Saturday, that they need to work on that. But we'll see. I mean, Michigan is playing Michigan State this weekend, so we'll see who has the momentum after.
Yeah, for sure. Michigan right now is on a 6-game winning streak, but they do face the Spartans before that. So if they can pull off a sweep, that's going to be a lot of momentum to face Penn State. Their goalie is also really good, third in goalie win save percentages. That's actually above Trey Augustine, who they faced this past weekend. Michigan's 10-2 at home. They love the fans. They love that environment. Penn State 7-4 on the road. So obviously they're going to have a tough challenge here. Faceoffs are going to be huge, especially now that you're down Charlie Serrato. Having people step up to win those faceoffs in the neutral zone is going to be huge. The team will have a week 2 rest, but then they will head back on the road to face another top-ranked opponent. Let's head over to Chase Fisher for an update on women's hockey and women's basketball.
All right, Chase, this Penn State's women's basketball team has been something to watch, and you've been covering them all season long. They haven't been able to win one in-conference game. In these last 3 games, they lost by 20 points. What is the energy like in this locker room right now?
Well, I mean, the energy kind of matches what the men's team was like, but the win for Mike Rhodes kind of got the monkey off his back, but the monkey is still very much on Carolyn Keeger's back, and it's been a team that's had their ups and downs. The energy has kind of varied at times. They've had good stretches in games where they've been able to dominate maybe some half quarters, even some quarters of basketball. I know after Washington, Coach Keeger had said that was one of the best halves they had played down the stretch. And against Minnesota, they found a good groove towards the end of the second quarter, but they just haven't been able to put together a full 40 minutes of ball throughout much of the season. And that's kind of how they've gone on this conference skid.
And when you look at this game, what about it is so difficult for them? Is it rebounds? Is it free throws? Is it possession time?
Well, I mean, the offense has been okay. You got 2 of the top 10 scoring leaders in the Big Ten in Gracie Merkel and Keomi McMiller. Mariah Murray's knocking down the 3. It's been defense, and it's been really tough for a team that needs to score a lot to stay in those games, and all that offense just kind of goes to waste because they just have not been able to take care of the basketball, which they're worse in the Big Ten with that. I believe they had the second worst out of Power 5, Power 6, whatever it is nowadays in the entire country in turnovers. And it's also just an issue of just not being able to really stop the opposing team from putting points on the board. They're worse in the Big Ten in that statistic as well. If they're able to kind of tune that up down the stretch, they have a couple of easier matchups. It's been a gauntlet going through the Big Ten, but if they can kind of get out of the woods a little bit, which they are, they might have an opportunity to finally get a 1 in the conference win column.
You mentioned Keomi McMiller. She transferred in from Rutgers. What do you have to say about her performance on this Penn State team so far, and has she been able to adapt to the culture here?
Well, she's definitely brought a different flavor to Penn State, and she's been very dynamic with the ball in her hands. The only issue is it's kind of dynamic for each side because she also turns it over at a good clip as well. But when she's on there, she's able to facilitate and really get the offense going. She's able to find Gracie Merkel inside of the post. She's able to kick out when she needs to. She's got a plethora of moves when she's got the basketball in her hands, behind the back, between the legs, you name it, she's got it. She's really been a positive for this team, but it just hasn't shown on the scoreboard this year.
Staying on the women's sports side of things, Penn State women's ice hockey was faced off in Beaver Stadium on Friday. A lot more fans than they usually have in Pagula. What was that environment like?
Oh, that was incredible. 1,800 fans. It's the program record, and I know Annika was talking about how it was very cold in Beaver Stadium. I had frostbite, so 9 of my 10 toes. I still don't have feeling in right now. It's kind of annoying, but just rolling with the punches at the moment. But yeah, this women's hockey team is really rolling with the punches as well. They got 3 athletes in Italy, in Fantine, in Hall, and of course Tessa Janicki all overseas representing their respective countries, and good luck to them. But being able to withstand that and able to get a sweep over Robert Morris. Granted, the AHA is a little bit weaker, but Saturday they had to come back from 2 goals down in the second period. They scored 5 unanswered. No problem for them. It's a really exciting time, and it could be a team that finally gets over the hump in postseason play.
Definitely excited for their postseason, especially the way, like you mentioned, they showed up the other day. But switching gears to men's sports, Penn State men's basketball was finally able to secure an in-conference win. Amanda Vogt and Maya have the story.
In January, Penn State men's basketball was 0-8, losing all conference games.
January wasn't a lot of fun around here.
But on Sunday, the Nittany Lions finally had something to celebrate after narrowly defeating Minnesota 77-75.
In my 30 years as a coach, we celebrate victories. No matter if we're first in the league or last in the league, like we're going to enjoy a win. 1 point and we don't play well, or we have a 40-point blowout win. Like we're going to celebrate the win.
Penn State led by as much as 13 points, but Minnesota went on a 14-4 run in the final 5 minutes of the game to tie it with less than a minute remaining. Freshman guard Caden Mingo had the winning layup shot in the final seconds.
Coach drew up the play for me, and that was all she wrote from there. I just got downhill, made sure I played off 2 like my coaches teach me, and made a good play. He played good defense, though, as well.
But Mingo was also an important facilitator, especially in the first half when he was only 1 of 10 from the field. He notably got the ball in the hands of Freddie DeLeon, who had 25 points, tying a career-high performance, and Josh Reed, who was 4 of 5 from 3.
There was really no plan to it, just mental, just stuff I've been doing. So, like, shout out to this guy. He got me the ball. Everybody else found me, so, yeah.
Penn State rebounded much better against the Golden Gophers, which translated to 20 second chance points. For Penn State Sports Night, I'm Amanda Vogt.
Penn State's record now stands at 10-12 after it broke its 8-game losing streak. In the home stretch of this season, the Nittany Lions have 9 more games on the schedule, all 9 being Big Ten matchups. I'm Mind Feeling alongside Amanda Vogt. And Amanda, this team has really been struggling recently.
Yeah.
They started the season out very strong, but once they started Big Ten play, they've fallen into a rut. And we've heard from Rhodes and the players, they are putting in the work, they're putting in the hours to get back on top, but nothing really seems to be changing. And one thing that you and I have discussed is that they're struggling on the rebound, but that seemed to change a little bit yesterday against Minnesota.
Yeah, that was the bright spot against Minnesota, contributing to that first conference win. And it really has been about the battles on the glass. And during that losing streak, they allowed way too many offensive rebounds by their opponents early in the games. They got a lot of second chance points that way. And Penn State found itself pretty deep in a deficit that they were unable to climb out of. Last week at Rec Hall, they were down by 37 at one point to Wisconsin. You can't do that when you have such a young team battling through a ton of adversity. And the Big Ten's a gauntlet of a conference. At least 5 teams are ranked in the AP top 25. They had a tough opening stretch, but getting that win against Minnesota really came down to getting a ton of offensive rebounds by Penn State early on and limiting a lot of those shots from Minnesota and getting those defensive boards. And that's something that Mike Rhodes said that if they're not able to do, then they're not going to be able to win games. And that's been the case all season long. So you're finally seeing that come together, but you've seen some inconsistencies defensively all season. But I think that once you have a win off the end of a good performance like this, it's only going to help the morale of such a young team like this.
And another thing they're struggling with, here we go again with the injury bug. Last year, we were talking about the same exact thing.
Same graphic too.
It's a different group of guys, same story. But 4 very important players on the roster are either injured right now, out with injury, or very sick. Yvonne missed the game yesterday with 103-degree fever.
Yeah, who would have
Rhodes said
thought?
he was sick as a dog. So what's going on there?
Yeah, Penn State was without its primary forward rotation, which makes it even more that impressive that the guys on the court stepped up the way they did to get that first win. But you had Yvonne out with a fever, like you said, Sasha Siani with an ankle injury, Tibor Mirtic, who had hurt his knee, came back, was in a sling, and then you had Eli Rice during the game kind of knock heads with a Golden Gopher and come out. We think he might be dealing with a concussion. Nothing confirmed yet. Last time we spoke to Rhodes, he said the doc didn't have the answers for him, but he was in the locker room with the team post-game. And Caden Mingo was coming back he missed some time earlier in the month,
came back after he broke his nose, kind of wearing that protective guard. So if you saw something on his face that looked weird, that's what that was. But him coming back was huge because when you have such a young team like this and you're asking a lot of freshmen so much from them already, that workload only increases when you have a ton of injuries. And so they've been struggling with that. The opponents that they're playing are really top tier, but it's always been next man up regardless. Mike Rhodes made a comment. He said, we're not canceling the game, and they kind of have no choice, but it's learning to play through that. And the way they did with the type of player that was unavailable, you didn't have those easy push the ball into the paint and push it up and score with Yvonne that they kind of had been mastering a little bit, but it was a good sign, but it's not easy even though there's 9 games left.
And speaking of top tier opponents, Penn State is going to be playing the number 2 team in the conference and in the country on Thursday when they head to Ann Arbor to play Michigan. Michigan has only lost 1 game this season against Wisconsin, and it was a close one. They did not lose by much. So Penn State is going to have to really rely on any momentum that they might have from their win yesterday because they are 1-5 on the road and looking at a slight disadvantage here.
Yeah, but if you're Penn State, you're going to go back to that game earlier in January when it was the first game Caden Mingo actually ended up missing. But Penn State only lost by 2 points, and they had put up really strong performances against these top-ranked opponents. And so that was a promising sign. I don't know how Michigan's going to adapt to Mingo on the court, so that's going to be an interesting battle to watch to see how they handle that freshman guard, especially after the performance he had on Sunday. But with that, Penn State did really well. It was not letting Michigan's hot scorers get a lot of points early on. Michigan's leading scorer only had 14 points in that game, which in other cases against Maryland, they let one player put up about 43, which is kind of crazy to see those numbers in collegiate basketball like that. So defensively, they're going to have to be locked down. You're going to need to see them winning battles on the glass early, getting those defensive boards and preventing a lot of second chance points because you can't go down by a lot to this Wolverines team. And I mean, considering how close it was the last game, this should be a pretty fun one to watch in Ann Arbor on Thursday.
And you've mentioned it. Michigan has been praised for their incredibly good offense
and
this
size.
year.
They're really big.
They're really big guys. So we will have to see how that plays out on Thursday. Tip-off is set for 6:30 p.m. Now let's take a look how the men's wrestling team is doing. Evan has the story.
The introduction of Penn State football head coach Matt Campbell set the tone for a one-of-a-kind BJC duel.
Penn State wrestling defeated Nebraska 26-12 here in the Bryce Jordan Center, behind a series of matches that were a bit strange compared to Penn State's history. A night of apparent frustration started with Braden Davis.
Penn State spent the night seemingly trying to force the Cornhuskers to engage with them, leading to some frustration throughout the lineup. After getting pinned in his match, Braden Davis was deducted a team point for an outburst on defending national champion Brock Hardy.
Frustration? I don't know if you're wrestling a good team and you're not always going to have your best night, or as a team, maybe we're a little flat, but that's okay.
Mitchell Messenbrink, Levi Haynes, and Josh Barr all showed inklings of out-of-character emotions while trying to get some action out of Nebraska. Despite the stalling, Penn State still came out with its 83rd consecutive victory.
The Penn State Nittany Lions have no surprise been dominating the collegiate wrestling scene this season. With only 3 duels left before the Big Ten championship, the Blue and White are 12-0, the number 1 team in the country, and have 6 number 1 ranked wrestlers. I'm Nico Rodriguez, joined alongside Connor Patterson with Evan Smith at the monitor to bring you the latest Penn State wrestling update. So Connor, this past Friday, Penn State hosted Nebraska in the BJC. We were there. It was an electric atmosphere. It was a sellout. Let's talk about the match.
The team has been phenomenal all year, but I think this is the first match they really faced some real adversity. On the Nebraska side, there was a few guys here and there that seemed to be stalling a little bit. The crowd was getting very upset. You could hear the boos echoing throughout the arena, and I think it was getting in some of the Penn State wrestlers' heads. But even through that, it's the first adversity they faced all year. It could have been a concern. They persevered through that, and it didn't seem to faze them at all. And Nebraska as a team is ranked 5, but within that, there was 19 ranked wrestlers, 6 top 10 matches. So you knew it was going to be a dogfight coming in. And I think they handled the pressure really well. And like Luke Lillidahl said at the post-game press conference, he said this is a 10-punch knockout lineup. And I think that summed it up perfectly because there really are rare gaps within this lineup.
Yeah, as we see here, There were 6 top 10 matchups in this duel. They won 5 out of the 6, which doesn't sound too bad, but then they tacked on another 2 losses on top of that, so 3 total losses in the match. 2 of those came in the lighter weights before the break. And you saw at 141, Braden Davis fell to Brock Hardy, returning national champion. You see at 157, PJ Duke falls to Antrell Taylor, another returning national champ. And then, so now they're down 10-9 at the break, which is not a sizable lead. You go down to 285. It's Cole Mirasola, redshirt freshman, going up against the number 3 ranked heavyweight in AJ Ferrari. AJ has bounced around between a few collegiate teams, and it was really no surprise that Mirasola lost, redshirt freshman, going up against a dude that's, again, probably 24 years old now. So 3 losses, though, is a little concerning on the Penn State side.
Speaking of the very interesting Braden Davis match, our third beat reporter, Evan Smith, is at the monitor.
Thank you, Connor. Yeah, as we mentioned, Braden Davis had an opportunity to take on the defending national champion at 141 pounds in Brock Hardy. Since coming back to the lineup, he's had an up and down season, and this match was no different. He started off with a takedown before our cameras could even get rolling and had the Bryce Jordan Center on their feet. And if you notice, he's overpowering Hardy, who is a physically stronger man than him. Hardy gets up, and Davis brings him right back down. He would secure 1 more takedown before that round would be completed, and even when Hardy gets up, Davis was able to shove him right off the mat. That was act number 1 of this match between Hardy and Davis. But unfortunately, this was a tale of 3 matches, and it's not quite a happy ending for the Nittany Lions. Here at the end of the first round, Davis had a chance to get a pin of his own, got the neck hooked, but ran out of time. Now we're flash forward into the second round when things started to fall apart for Davis. If you notice, right before the round started, he's holding his thumb, and you can tell he's already a bit gassed. That will come up later on in this period. Now in the second round, Davis is going for a few attacks like he did in that first round. He kept the aggression, but he didn't have the strength left in his legs to be able to complete any of these tackles. Hardy's doing that defensive stand we saw from Nebraska for the majority of this duel. And after he gets thrown off the mat, now he's got to get his thumb taped up. The media learned earlier in the week that Davis had a bit of a hand issue. Didn't think it would plague him as much as it did. And from then on, Brock Hardy took over Braden Davis. He ended up taking a bit of the lead, and he's a bit surprised that Davis isn't fighting back as much as he expected. Now to the third period where everything seemed to hit the fan. Davis starts off going for an attack, but again, his legs give out, and he kind of just dead weights under Hardy, who takes advantage, hooks the leg. His neck's already in position to end up in a cradle, and that's what he does. And as bad as that is, he proceeds to get worse for Davis. After that little tap from Hardy, he sends a kick right into the chest of the defending champion. Now, in the moment, I understand you might think that's a bit of a disrespect, but Brock Hardy's been a stand-up guy his entire career. And either way, you can't respond like that. That's the first time a Nittany Lion under Cale Sanderson has been deducted a team point for unsportsmanlike conduct. And for Davis, with number 1, Jesse Mendez coming up for Ohio State in the near future, he's probably seeing some fresh meat. You better hope that you get those mistakes a little bit more rare as we go to this tough end of the season. Send it back to Nico at the desk.
Yeah, Connor, we saw the extracurriculars there at the end of the match between Davis and Hardy. I don't think Hardy had any ill intentions. I think it was just good match, good try, something along those lines. And then Davis, heat of the moment, explodes, cost the team the penalty point. Obviously, you can't be doing that, especially when you then lose a point. You're only up 10-9 at the break.
Yeah, it seems like Hardy's a really good guy, but I think the biggest thing was Davis came out so hot. I mean, that arena was erupting. It was the loudest I think I heard all night. I think it was 7-0, 8-0 at the beginning, and he was just on fire. And then all of a sudden, in the blink of an eye, Hardy just flipped the table on him, and from there, it was just a complete mess. And you saw it on the kick on video. It just turned it into a complete mess. And I think it just boiled over from the loss, from the hot start, to just the tap. I think it just sent him over the edge. So I don't think it was really justified. I think it's just a heat-of-the-moment thing. It was an interesting match for sure.
Yeah, it all went upside down really quickly. But before we wrap up, let's talk about what wrestler so far have you been impressed by?
So far, I think the one that's impressed me the most is Mitchell Messenbrink. I mean, it might be an obvious pick, but look at that record. I mean, 55-1 is absolutely absurd. His last time he lost was in March of 2023. I know I wasn't even a student at Penn State. A lot of people on this campus weren't even students. It's just absurd. And then you look at the Big Ten record of 29-0. That's the real moneymaker. If you can win in the Big Ten, that's how you become a staple in this lineup. And he's proved that, ranked number 1 at 165 and the pound for pound. So best out of anyone. And it's really just unreal to go out there and watch him compete.
Yeah, so dominant. I want to talk about Marcus Blaze. He's a freshman, currently ranked number 3rd at 133 pounds. In his collegiate career, he's 16-0 with 12 of those wins coming from duels. He's tied for first in wins in the team with 16, tied with Messenbrink, actually. And then he's second in the team in major decisions with 5. He's beaten the number 12 and 22nd ranked guy at 133 pounds. So he's proven that he can hang. He's only been taken down once in those 16 matches compared to him taking down 43 opponents.
Yeah, and both these dudes have proven themselves as staples of a lineup. And it doesn't matter what age you're at, what year you are, what weight you are. These dudes just know how to win under Sanderson. And it's just awesome to watch when we go there and get to be in attendance for these duels.
Yeah, absolutely. Blaze is only a freshman. Messenbrink continues to dominate. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with Big Ten championships coming up and then also nationals. Penn State heads to Ann Arbor on Friday for a duel with the Michigan Wolverines. Now back to Jesenia and Kylie for this week's top plays.
It's not going to be as busy as it was this past weekend in State College, as the next 4 sporting events will be away, starting with women's basketball heading to Purdue, then men's basketball going to face another in-conference opponent, Michigan, and then women's ice hockey playing Lindenwood.
Keeping things going in Michigan, Penn State wrestling will face the Wolverines. Men's State volleyball is bringing it back to Happy Valley. I know it says Michigan on the screen, but they are going to be playing St. Francis. And lastly, women's gymnastics is headed to Baton Rouge to compete against LSU. For more content, be sure to follow us on Instagram and X. Look for weekly sports updates and packages here on YouTube. For everyone behind the scenes, our beat reporters, and our producers, for Jesenia Marrero, I'm Kylie Smith. Have a great night.